Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and good afternoon, good morning, or good night. Well, whatever time of day you're at, hi. I'm a Nomad's Journey audiobooks. I maybe change my name. We're gonna deal with a few different names before we kind of solidify. Anyway, 4th of July coming up, and my sister just did my nails. If you guys are interested, I'm going to link her website down below, along with her channel. Anyway, guys, we are on chapter 6. We haven't done this book in a while, but we're on chapter 6 of Danny, the Champion of the World. So, just gonna get to that. And remember to tell other people about this. We want people who are interested. Come join the family if you're interested. Get your friends that you know will be interested. I'm not pushing for subscribers. I want people to be happy and come listen and, to books. I love listening to books. I love reading books. I love everything about books. I love where they take me. So if you're feeling like you just need a little bit of criminality, come join and scroll through my playlist and see what books there are to listen to. So tell your friends that you think would enjoy this, or family members, or just anyone, maybe some random person. I don't know. Just welcome, and let's get right on to chapter 6, which is Mr. Victor Hazel. Page 42. I don't remember the accent I did for him, so please bear with me. I think we can figure it out though. Alright. The following Friday, while we were having supper in the caravan, my father said, "If it's all right with you, Danny, I'll be going out again tomorrow night." "You mean poaching?" "Yes. Will it be Hazel Woods again?" It'll always be Hazelwood," he said. "First, because that's where all the pheasants are, and second, because I don't like Mr. Hazel one bit, and it's a pleasure to poach his birds." I must pause here to tell you about Mr. Victor Hazel. He was a brewer of beer, and he owned a huge brewery. He was rich beyond words, and his property stretched for miles along either side of the valley. All the land around us belonged to him. Everything on either side of the road, everything except the small patch of ground on which our filling station stood. That patch belonged to my father. It was a little island in the middle of the vast ocean of Mr. Hazel's estate. Mr. Victor Hazel was a roaring snob, and tried desperately to get in with what he believed were the right kind of folk. He hunted with the hounds and gave shooting parties and wore fancy waistcoats, and every weekday he drove his enormous silver Rolls Royce past our filling station on his way to the brewery. As he flashed by, we would sometimes catch a glimpse of the great, glistening, beery face above the wheel, pink as ham, all soft and inflamed from drinking too much beer. "No," my father said, "I don't like Mr. Victor Hazel one bit. I haven't forgotten the way he spoke to you last year when he came in for a fill-up." I hadn't forgotten it either. Mr. Hazel had pulled up alongside the pumps in his glistening, gleaming Rolls Royce, and had said to me, "Fill up and look sharp about it." I was 8 years old at the time. He didn't get out of the car. He just handed me the key to the cap of the gasoline tank, and as he did so, he barked, "And keep your filthy little hands to yourself. Do you understand?" I didn't understand at all. I said, "What do you mean, sir?" There was a little leather riding crop at the seat beside him. He picked it up and pointed it at me like a pistol. "If you make any dirty finger marks on my paintwork," he said, "I'll step right out of this car and give you a good hiding." Yes, he's Southern. My father was about out of the workshop almost before Mr. Hazel had finished speaking. He strode up to the window of the car and placed his hands on the sill and leaned in. "I don't like the way I don't like you speaking to my son like that, he said. His voice was dangerously soft. Mr. Hazel didn't look at him. He sat quite still in the seat of his Rolls-Royce, his tiny piggy eyes staring straight ahead. There was a superior little smile around the corners of his mouth. You had no reason to threaten him, my father went on. He had done nothing wrong. Mr. Hazel continued to act as though my father wasn't there. Next time you threaten someone with a good hiding, I suggest you pick on a person your own size, my father said. Like me, for instance. Mr. Hazel didn't move. No, go away, please, my father said. We do not wish to serve you. He took the key from my hand and tossed it through the window. The Rolls-Royce drove away fast in a cloud of dust. The very next day, an inspector from the local Department of Health arrived, and he said he had come to inspect our caravan. What do you want to inspect our caravan for? My father asked. To see if it's any fit place for humans to live, the man said. We don't allow people to live in dirty, broken-down shacks these days. My father showed him the inside of the caravan, which was spotlessly clean as always, and as cozy as could be, and in the end the man had to admit there was nothing wrong with it. Soon after that, another inspector turned up and took a sample of gasoline from our underground storage tanks. Here's what it looked like when he came to get gas. Oh, and here's the inspector for the gasoline. My father explained to me that they were checking up to see if they were mixing some of our second grade gasoline in with the first grade stuff, which is an old dodge practiced by crooked filling station owners. Of course, we were not doing this. Hardly a week went by when some local official dropping without some local official dropping by to check up on one thing or another, and there was little doubt, my father said, that the long and powerful arm of Mr. Hazel was reaching out behind the scenes and trying to run us off our land. So, all in all, you can see why it gave my father a certain pleasure to poach Mr. Victor Hazel's pheasants. That night we put the raisins in to soak. The next day was poaching day, and don't think my father didn't know it. From the moment he got out of his bunk in the morning, the excitement began to build up inside him. This was Saturday, so I was home from school, and we spent most of the day in the workshop decarbonizing the cylinders of Mr. Pratchett's Austin 7. It was a great little car built in 1933, a tiny miracle of a machine that still ran as sweetly as ever. Still ran as sweetly as ever. Though it was now more than 40 years old, my father said that these Austin 7s, better known in their time as Baby Austins, were the first successful mini-cars ever made. Mr. Pratchett, who owned a turkey farm near Aylesbury, was as proud as could be of this one, and he always brought it to us for repair. Working together, we released the valve springs and drew out the valves. We unscrewed the cylinder head and nuts and lifted off the head itself. Then we began scraping the carbon from the inside of the head and from the top of the pistons. I want to be away by 6 o'clock. These people are just turning silent. I want to be away by 6 o'clock, my father said. Then I will get to the wood exactly at twilight. Why at twilight? I asked. Because at twilight everything inside the wood becomes veiled and shady. You can see the move around, but it's not easy for someone else to see you. And when danger threatens, you can always hide in the shadows, which are darker than a wolf's mouth. Which are always darker than a wolf's mouth. Why don't you wait till it gets really dark? I asked. Then you wouldn't be seen at all. You wouldn't catch anything if you did that, he said.
When night comes on, all the pheasants fly up into the trees to roost. Pheasants are just like other birds. They never sleep on the ground. Twilight, my father added, begins around 7:30 this week. And as it's at least an hour and a half's walk to the wood, I must not leave here later than 6 o'clock. Are you going to use the sticky hat, or will it be the horsehair stopper? I asked. Sticky hat, he said. I am very fond of sticky hat. Then when will you be back? About 10 o'clock, he said. 10:30 at the latest, I promise. I'll be back by 10:30. You're quite sure you don't mind being left alone? Quite sure, I said. But you will be all right, won't you, Dad? Don't worry about me, he said, putting his arm around my shoulders and giving me a hug. But you said there wasn't a man in your dad's village that didn't get a bit shot up by the keepers sooner or later. Ah, my father said. Yes, I did say that, didn't I? But in those days there were a lot more keepers in the woods than there are now. There were keepers behind almost every tree. But how many are there in Hazel's wood? Not too many, he said. Not too many at all. As the day wore on, I could see my father getting more and more impatient and excited. By 5 o'clock we had finished work on the baby Austin, and together we ran her up and down the road to test her out. At 5:30 we had an early supper of sausages and bacon, but my father hardly ate anything at all. At 6 o'clock precisely he kissed me good-bye and said, Promise not to wait up for me, Danny. Put yourself to bed at 8 and go to sleep, right? He set off down the road, and I stood on the platform of the caravan watching him go. I loved the way he moved. He had the long loping stride all countrymen have, who are used to covering great distances on foot. He was wearing an old navy blue sweater and an even older cap on his head. He turned and waved at me. I waved back. Then he disappeared around a bend in the wood. Right, that was the end of chapter 6, which was called Mr. Victor Hazel. And next chapter will be chapter 7, The Baby Austin, page 49. So if you have a copy, I will meet you back there. If this is where you're ending for the day, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.